Hello, everybody out there in YouTube. We are the Middle Age guys, and we're back after a little bit of a respite. Coming to you again to bullshit about geeky stuff as usual. All right. Just in case you've forgotten who the folks are in front of you on the screen, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I am the Reverend.
The theme here.
And I'm Gray Mouse One.
Okay. In order to go ahead and get us back in the groove, kind of throw us out of softball for us to go ahead and work with, we're going to be revisiting a subject that we've talked about multiple times before. In fact, at this moment in time, it's very much in the forefront of a lot of people's minds, whether or not you're an enthusiast gamer, enthusiast retro gamer, somebody who just happens to follow a lot of gaming channels on YouTube, some of the more informed guys or whatnot. We're going to be talking about the Atari VCS again, all right? The Atari box, the new Atari console, no longer the Atari box, the Atari VCS, appealing to your sense of nostalgia, all right? Now, this particular console, to say the least, we've been critical of it, all right? But there's one thing that I've got to say that cannot be denied is that there is value in the Atari brand, because the Atari VCS Indiegogo, it started all the way back on, I believe, at the end of May, and they were asking for a flexible goal of, I believe, $150,000. Within their first day, they had actually shattered that goal, and right now, at this moment in time, they are standing at $2,987,551 US dollars. That's in total of funds that they've raised on their original flexible goal of, like I said, which was like $150,000. All right, which goes to show, no matter what we may think about it, but there are people who are interested in this, all right? That's kind of concerning, to a point, but what are you guys' thoughts on it? I mean, it's Indiegogo, it's what they do. They went ahead, they put it out, and, people bit.
Look, it's not the fact that it was on Indiegogo. I really, really didn't care about that as long as the product was presented to me that delivers some sort of promise to it. Now, as you alluded to earlier, Reverend, yeah, I'm a gamer and I'm a nostalgic gamer as well. I have a Atari 2600 sitting to my right with a CRT TV, and it's still hooked up to it and it still works. I play it every once in a while. If you would go to our recent conversations about Atari, you would see me pull that motherfucker out. You will see me pull the games out or the joysticks or whatever. And I still play that thing, and that thing is absolutely fun. Atari is dear in my heart. With all of that being said, I was interested when this was first announced. It was the more the information came out, or the lack thereof, I should say, that really raised eyebrows. It's not that the Atari doesn't have any value to it as far as the Atari name. It was all the other shit that came up with it. But, Gray Mouse, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, we've already said this 1,000 times already. But you said you didn't have a problem with it going on Indiegogo. I did. Most of the reason why is because Indiegogo, you could put anything up there on Indiegogo and not have a working prototype, and you're just asking for money, and that just leads to other things that can happen, and that's one thing that it being on Indiegogo, that was a red flag for me. I know that there are some projects that come out of Indiegogo that worked out. That worked out very well. But for the most part, I would think if it was either Kickstarter or something else like that, something more where there's things in place to make sure that people that they donate to the company at least, you know, you can get something back if everything crashes or if nothing gets produced. But with Indiegogo, you don't, like I said, you don't have to have a working prototype. And that was a red flag to me. And another red flag to me is that we have seen nothing working natively on the Atari VCS. There's no games that's running on it. And you know, I scoured the internet to look for games that are running natively on that. You know, they've shown nothing. All they've shown was, as far as I'm concerned, is 2 controllers and a piece of plastic with nothing in it, as far as we know. They've shown nothing. Nothing. I mean, but, you know, I got to give credit where credit's due. Like the Reverend said, you know, I mean, people had faith in it. They almost donated $3 million to this project. And I really do hope that the people that donated this money to the project, that they will get their intended product. I really hope so. I hate to see people, you know, not getting their money's worth. I mean, because, I mean, what? It's $239 for entry level. And I mean, that's a lot of money to people. So, you know, those are my opening thoughts. Reverend, I turn it back over to you.
Well, okay. Generally speaking, here's the thing about this. All right, and regardless of my misgivings and any sort of concerns that I have, if console goes ahead and actually releases out to the market, I wish it the best, because the thing is that the more hardware, the more avenues of gaming that are out there that are successful, the better it is for gamers, just in general. All right, so I wish success. However, that comes with a big caveat. If we were sitting there and we were to take into account of a lot of things that we know about, you know, especially with some of the things that have come out over the last few weeks, the problem that I have right now, and admittedly this is more of a gut feeling on my own, is that considering all the things about, you know, the open marketplace, the open marketplace that they're encouraging, the Linux OS or the Ubuntu based OS and everything else, I don't know if this is something that Atari themselves is actually going to go out of their way and support long term. Okay, because the thing is that here's a problem with open operating system. All right, it's not the case that it's open operating system that anybody could go out of their way and make anything for it. All right, that's not a bad thing in of itself. All right, however, the things that I worry about is that if it is truly an open operating system and anybody can go ahead and publish whatever the hell they want on this particular system, that means they don't have to license anything from Atari. Okay, when they go ahead and they sell whatever software packages, applications, or whatever they do, Atari doesn't see any money from it. They see no cut. So guess what? Atari doesn't see any profit. They see even less of a reason to go ahead and support this particular product long term. Okay. The other issue that I have is one that we've brought up multiple times, is that, you know, I don't see we don't know anything about like exclusive games or any third party support or anything like that for it. Okay. And here's the thing. This is the reason why it becomes really, really important to me, is that, you know, when the Nintendo Switch, the NX at the time, went ahead and it announced itself, you know, a lot of people were going out of their way and they were saying, you know, a lot of these third-party publishers that Nintendo has, you know, listed on their spreadsheet, that's bullshit. They're lying. No, they can't even fucking, you know, put their brand name or logo as part of their press kit unless they are under contract, unless they've actually, you know, shelled out some money and they've actually secured these sort of licenses and stuff like that. All right. And people were openly, you know, bombarding the thought of certain third-party publishers being on the Switch. All right. Now the thing is that now we have this particular this particular console here that has a fully open operating system, all right, fully open market and everything else. We don't have any major third-party publishers. The only other prospective partners that they have are all indie publishers and stuff like that. It's really not set up in a way, especially considering that, you know, they just barely finalized like their internal specifications like over the last 2 weeks. All right. You know, there really isn't anything out there that's giving me any sort of real confidence that you have people other than Atari that are going to be able to make anything for this particular system in a competent way.
Sir, can I interject real quick?
Sure.
You brought up a very valid point, which I think is what they're going for. I think what they're doing, Atari is doing, is putting out a device to where the fans can upload their own games or whatever, and it's pretty much hands off. Atari just wants to get the money off the initial sell for the top set box. Yeah, it's going to have old school Atari games on it. That's part of the thing. It's part of the package. But afterwards, I would even think that as soon as less than 3 months or 2 months, that Atari is going to be hands off on it. And like, well, we made this box for a sandbox, is what they're saying. They're even saying that on their website. It's a sandbox to where the community can make their own games. And then, like you just said a minute ago, you know, Atari's not getting any money from these indie games, you know? So I think that's what they're doing. They're just providing a device for people to build their games on and to put their games out there. They just want the money for the device. I don't think, like you said, I agree with you that I don't think that Atari is going to support this much further than, you know, the launch window. Because, like, you know, no first part or no third party support. All it is indie games and Atari games that are over 40, 45 years old.
You know what's kind of funny is that no third party support as far as games, but you can hook up almost just about any third party USB device that you got. In other words, it says right here, I'm looking at it, use your own peripherals and accessories. Atari VCS provides universal peripheral connectivity, so it also works just as well as your other PC input devices, including Bluetooth and USB game controllers, mouse and keyboard, external storage, webcams, microphones, external speakers, headphones. So you're telling me that you're going to have old nostalgic games built into this thing initially. Well, and even that shit is subject to change because of what they listed on their site. They had 2 kids sitting on a couch with controllers playing Centipede on the screen when Centipede is a one fucking player game. You're telling me that all that shit is going to work on this console. All your peripherals that you can hook up to a PC is going to work on this thing. For what point and purpose? Well, Gray Mouse and the Reverend just answered that. For keyboards and mice, yeah, and external storage, okay, maybe you can build your own fucking game while you have all that shit attached to it and then just upload it online. Because it has USB, it has Ethernet. So, I don't know.
It's going to be a box of shovelware is what it's going to end up. Less than 6 months to a year, it's just going to be full of so much shovelware that, I mean...
If it even gets that far. Here's the thing. All right. Here's the thing. If it even gets that far. All right. The only time I've ever seen anything developed game-wise, all right, that's affixed to a published title within, like, you know, 3-6 months, stuff like that, have been mods for AAA titles. But guess what? those titles that have been published by AAA developers and everything have already been in development for multiple years before they've even hit the market. All right, the modders who are out here, who like to go ahead and tinker around with that stuff, God bless them, but they're not building anything from scratch. Okay, and that's just how that is. Do you think somebody's going to sit there and build something from scratch for this and have it out? Yeah, and have it out
for this
within
thing?
like months.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Exclusively
they're
for the Atari VCS.
yeah, I mean, if they're able to, God bless them. But the thing about it is that, again, considering the things that are been in place, and some of the things that they really went out of their way to stress as a marketing point, an open operating system based off of Ubuntu. All right, when over the last decade has there been game ready drivers for any Linux system? All right. I mean, that's what they tried to push for Steam OS, because that was built based off of Linux. And when the Steam box was out, and third party people did the benchmarks between Steam OS and Windows, they found that the games running on the Steam box using Steam OS were performing worse than they were the Windows games. So that's just one of the things that we have to consider. Now, the thing about this is that, okay, all right, so what's going to happen now? So Atari goes ahead and they take their box. God knows when it's going to come out, because the thing is that I know crowdfunding campaigns. I've given to a lot of them. All right, and even the ones that have actually finished up and produced produced finished products and projects. Less than 10% of them launch on time. Literally less than 10% of them launch on time. All right, let's just be truthful. Less than 10% of all crowdfunding campaigns even turn out a working product at the end of anything. All right, let's just be truthful about that. My whole thing about this is that, okay, so we have this ecosystem that's put together for this box and everything, and it's put out there. What happens, if it turns out that they aren't able to sit there and build a strong ecosystem or a strong marketplace for this thing within like 3 to 6 months? Where are people left? That's really one of the things that I'm concerned with.
Well, I think they're going to rely on people making their own games as the ecosystem.
Wait, hold on. Simple setup for endless entertainment. Power up. Connect HDMI cable to your TV, plug in AC power, and activate the unit. Oh goody, just like any other console. Connect. Set up Wi-Fi or Ethernet, connect to the internet, and download any updates. Ah, shit. Explore hundreds of classic and new pre-installed games and find more in the Atari VCS store. You're telling me that even for old nostalgic shit, you're going to have to pay for it?
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to give it free. Because here's the thing. All right.
I wasn't expecting to have them all preloaded on this damn thing, but these games better not be fucking expensive if they're going to be in the Atari VCS store. And what about licensing issues, if they have any, as far as getting certain games?
Well, regardless of whether what price it's going to be at, the one thing that I have to stress is that when it comes to these these hardware manufacturers, especially the first party publishing companies and stuff like that, everybody knows. All right, you do not have to be a very deep enthusiast fan of the industry to know that majority of the money and profit is made off the video games, the software end of the spectrum. All right. You don't hardly make anything at all on hardware. Okay. Now with this particular set of hardware and everything, especially with the specs and all of that stuff that they've put out, they're looking at turning some sort of profit. They're not expecting to sell the box at a loss. All right. In which case, just looking at some of the things that they have here, like the AMD A10 and stuff like that, that was the shit back in like 2015. 2016. And it runs off of a Bristol APU, which means that it has an integrated GPU on it. And I will tell you, from as somebody who works in the compatibility lab for a major publisher, I sit there, I look at this chip, and I'm like, oh, this is the chipset that gives all of the games in our publishing catalog a fucking problem. All right, so there are certain things that I'm not confident about. Okay, now
the second prototype of this thing is coming third quarter 2018.
So
I'm hoping it works.
Final testing is at quarter 4 2018.
So they're gonna do, and they want this launched in springtime of 2019.
Yeah, shipping quarter 1 2019. Pre-orders arrive. Product available worldwide mid 2019. They haven't even done the production validation testing yet. That's at quarter 4 2018.
Let's talk a little bit about the user interface of what's being shown. Doesn't the user interface kind of look familiar?
Yeah. I mean, this, especially what they're showing, like for the classic games, it does look like a launch box UI.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like somebody who went ahead and they configured their own personal launch box UI for Stella, which is a Atari 2600 emulator. All right. Yeah. I mean, again, and the one thing about it is that, underneath that, it shows Atari titles shown here for illustration purposes only and do not reflect actual games and media lineup. All designs subject to change. Okay, the thing about a lot of this stuff that they have here too is that, all right, this is the part that has really come under scrutiny over the last few weeks, is that, all right, a lot of people have sat there and gone on the record and said, hey, look, a lot of the stuff that they're showing and demonstrating for the Atari VCS, just by digging and talking to people, they're finding out isn't actually running on the VCS, or hasn't been even in development for the VCS. All right, the very first one that was really obvious, or really took a lot of people back, was when they were showing the footage of Tempest 4000 playing on the VCS. All right. The developer for Tempest 4000 came out and in Reddit, it was talking about random stuff, and it was like, I don't know how they got a hold of Tempest 4000 to go ahead and play on the Atari VCS, because we haven't even built a Linux distributable package for the game, so I don't know how they're doing that. And when that came out, and a lot of other YouTubers started asking about that, and people started asking about it on not only on Indiegogo in their forums, but also on Facebook and everything else, that's when Atari went ahead and they added the little blurb: all IP shown is a trademark property of their respective owners and is depicted for illustration purposes only. All right. Which means they added fine print to everything. Okay. Now that
fine print when they were
that isn't the only thing that happened. Is that Atari and its the folks who are handling the Atari PR end, in their infinite wisdom, decided to go out of their way and put those YouTubers and also the mainstream entertainment media on blast, where they would sit there and tweet out, there are certain influencers who are talking about stuff that's fake news. Literally, that's what they said. And then also with the Register, the UK website, that went ahead and published their article about seeing the Atari VCS prototype, marketing prototype, and everything else at GDC or CES, and how they were talking to the CEO Michael Arts, and he was saying that he didn't know what anything was doing. They went ahead and they literally said, there are professional trolls out there who pose as media, who obviously went out of their way, decided to go ahead and write whatever the hell they wanted instead of what actually the interview was about. Here's what happened, though. The Register came back and was like, I'm sorry that we're professional trolls, but you know what? We have actual recorded audio of that whole fucking interview, and they published the whole audio of the interview out, which really went ahead and refuted everything that they had said about it and brought to light that, look, no, they wrote exactly what was said in the interview, all right?
Well,
yeah, a little snarky about it, but I don't know if this is in Atari's best interest to go out of their way and attack enthusiast media, and potential fans about stuff that they can't want to.
If it was such fake news and trolls, then why did they put that little blurb at the bottom of these of their Tempest 4000? All IP shown as a trademark, or not that one. I'm sorry. The
no, you're reading the right one. You're reading the right one.
Title shown here for illustration purposes only. What's the purpose of that? Why did that all of a sudden come up there on the website when people started crying wolf?
Wait a minute.
You can't lie out of it.
Sorry to cut you off. Imagine if any other game developer had said something like this. Imagine if any gaming developing god, quote unquote, would have said something. If Shigeru Miyamoto would have said the exact same quote. Okay, then no, I don't understand how they got this information that we haven't even started developing the game yet. If he would have said that about any of his creations, then who are you going to fucking believe?
I mean, I understand that you could say that this is for illustration, this is games in development.
Yeah, that should have been put out.
That's fine. But when you go out of your way after people put you on blast and caught you in a lie, then all of a sudden you update your website, putting that little blurb in there. And to add on to the insult,
hey, baby, I'm pregnant. I don't see how we haven't fucked.
So to be honest, oh my God, you missed. No, so what I understand, I mean, I'm not a game designer, I'm not a code writer or anything, but isn't Linux really hard to work with? To design for games to design for? That's why I said, is it not? Is it easy?
No, it's not hard to work with. It's just that here's the thing. All right. Here's the thing. Okay, when you're making games and you're making when you're producing software, all right, it's most profitable for you to go out of your way and create software and applications for whatever market has the most users. All right. Because guess what? By and large, what happens is that if the market is big enough and it has the most users, then it has the most tools and other sort of offerings in middleware. You're going to have you're going to have the largest pool of working information and software and tools and everything. All right. There's a reason why with cell phones, iOS is really fucking big. All right. There's a reason why with games, PC games, Windows is the biggest fucking market out there. All right. It's not that Linux is like fucking alien.
Well, no, I mean, you're making my point anyway. Yeah. What I was saying is like, wouldn't Microsoft OS be a lot better to design your console around instead of, I mean, there might be a lot of people with Macs. I mean, there are, but I mean, versus Macs versus Windows, there's not even a competition there.
Last time I checked, a Windows license for each and every individual PC on an OEM level is $100. So unless you wanted the Atari box to be $400 without a controller.
Well, no, I mean, I got it why they went cheap. I got that.
Yeah, they went an open source open source operating system is what they did.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, that may just bite them in the ass.
Oh, but the excuse of selling a console without a controller is you can use your own PC controllers on it. Just plug it in and.
I don't think it's going to be that plug and play.
No, there's got to be some type of software updates and all that shit and drivers and all that.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is a lot of that stuff, as far as the conventions that are used with the controllers that are out there, if it hooks up through USB, it's either direct input or X input. So it's basically either or as far as the driver package that you're going to use on a base level. All right, and yeah, that's readily available for Linux also. So, yeah, my whole thing with this is that because I know we don't have that much time left on this. All right, is that look, it's out. If you're somebody who's put money toward this, good luck to you. I really hope you receive something that's worthwhile. But I don't know if this is something that's going to be supported, for the long term, especially since the rumor out there is that Fred Chesnais has had a hold of the Atari brand and everything else. Since he's the fifth corporate owner, he's had a hold of it since 2014, 2015, in the last few years, but he hasn't been able to turn a profit on this penny stock. One of the things that he's been wanting to do, that the rumor that's out there, is that he wants to go ahead and show that the Atari brand name still has value. He wants to put a little bow on it, kick up some interest and maybe a little bit of revenue to accompany it, and then sell the fucking brand off to somebody else. Because look, he's obviously not making a lot of money off of it, especially if he has to sit there and ask for people to not only crowdfund this console, but Railroad Tycoon to go on the Switch.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no question there. And I think that's exactly what he's going to pump and dump that stock. He's going to get it as high as it can go, sell high, and move on to the next big thing. And,
sell high depends on who's buying.
Well, the thing is, this Kickstarter, this Indiegogo is proof in the pudding that the Atari brand, it's still profitable, or it's still worth money. That people will spend money to have an Atari brand device.
It's funny because I think that's how low the gaming industry has gone, that they would want something like that to return in order to broaden the spectrum of it. But it's just that I wish that they could have done this right from the get-go. I understand that the Atari name has has value. However, then there are trust issues with Atari. We've dealt with certain things by Atari before that either didn't work properly or they just didn't match up to what was currently out at the time.
I would have felt better if some big name actually bought the Atari. I don't know, that would actually.
The Atari VCS presented by Kojima Productions.
No. What I'm saying is, I would like somebody to genuinely throw money at it. $880 million, $90 million, or something. Then I might bite. If there's a huge amount of money that R&D, you got to spend in R&D and development. If this was done right, like you said, like if more money was involved, yeah, it might be an interesting thing to get. And like you said, more competition to give the big three, something to worry about. But right now, the big three's laughing at this, like, are you kidding me?
You know what's funny about that? Even what you just said, I still wouldn't buy it unless games were phenomenal.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. If they brought Atari, if they really truly brought Atari, the brand, into the 21st century, then I would understand. But this is not doing it with just $2 million, a $3 million Kickstarter.
I don't think I want to see this on high definition and on, with leaderboards, and I don't think I want to see that no, I don't want to see that in HD or in 4K.
I'm talking about to a point where Atari is building games again.
I'm talking about the state that it is now, but yeah, I see your point.
No, I mean where they're literally building, whether there be just a third party, game developing, that would be great. If
shit was done good, if they would remake Combat to have.
I'm talking about their own. I'm talking about original Atari shit for the 21st century. I'm talking about like Atari create, like they're a studio. They create games for this day and age. I'm not talking about their.
No. I'm talking about I'm talking about remake Combat for this day and age.
No, not necessarily that. But I
They
would
need to make new games. Just make new games.
no. What they gotta do is that they gotta do like what any serious first party publisher and hardware manufacturer does, and actually put up their own money.
There you go.
Go ahead and put this together so that it could be marketed en masse. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's they obviously shattered their Kickstarter goal and everything else. But after everything is all said and done, after as far as Indiegogo, they've shattered their crowdfunding goal and everything else. All right. After everything is said and done, though, once let's say these things do hit the general market and everything, all right. Are people going to sit there and say, "Oh, it was a grand success"? Well, I'm going to sit there and say, realistically, that's going to leave less than 10,000 actual units out on the market. Okay, guess what?
Yeah. Are people going to stand in line for this shit?
Let me finish. All right, let me finish. Like I said, because the thing is, my scope is much bigger than that. All right, the Nintendo Switch sold almost 3 million fucking units worldwide, and people were still saying, "Oh, that means nothing." All right, okay. And tell you the truth, if 3 million units doesn't mean anything, what does 10,000 units, less than 10,000 units mean?
So let me ask a really obvious question. So if I don't back this or whatever, I won't get an Atari VCS.
We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know if they're hitting stores or not.
That's the point that I'm making right there.
But them shattering their goal the way they did, this thing may get mass produced.
It might, or it may languish in crowdfunding development hell, and a lot of people may end up, missing their money.
I think they lowballed themselves. I mean, if you're trying to make Atari the way they were marketing it, talk about Atari is back in hardware. We saw the articles on Yahoo and whatever website, whatever you use. We saw that. Mm-hmm. Why are you only asking for $150,000? You're lowballing yourself. To me, just that tells me that you don't have enough confidence in your product. I mean, that's what I'm getting from that. $150,000? You can't even.
Why are you going on crowdfunding in the first fucking place?
That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
As a serious fucking competitor, as a hardware producer, why are you on crowdfunding in the first place?
Right.
But that's stuff we've said multiple times. All right, and I think from this point, it's kind of beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and let's wrap this one up. Like usual, folks, what we really want to know is, what do you think about it? All right, did you give to the Atari VCS crowdfunding? Did you give to the Indiegogo? What are you really realistically expecting if you did? If you didn't, why not? We'd like to know. Okay, you can tell us by leaving a comment below. While you're at it, if you think this video is worth it, we'd appreciate you smashing on the like button. If you didn't like it, you can go ahead and hit the dislike. At least you're telling us you actually watched it, hopefully. All right. And if you're really interested in seeing what we put out in the future, I know we've been on a break here, and you want to encourage us to do more, I do highly suggest you click subscribe, turn on those notifications, and you'll see whenever we put out any new stuff, either by ourselves or with all the middle-aged guys. All right. With that all said, all of our bullshit right now on this Atari VCS ends right here. I am the Reverend.
The Theme here.
And I'm Grey Mouse 1.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense, logic, and gaming. Credits.